Another beautiful Monday in New Mexico, another beautiful night on the New Mexico United social channels. Welcome to episode 4 of United Sessions. I'm one of your hosts, Lucas Cash. I'm joined by my pal, my amigo, David Carl. Always does a wonderful job, hosting the show and doing all the technical stuff that actually makes it work. We'll get to our third host here in a second. She's a legend and she's a big time pal. But before we get started, Dave, I kind of want to start my monologue with just the overwhelming joy and happiness of the seeming return to a semblance of normalcy. And I know that's a bit of a word salad, but we're starting to see some hints of normalcy. We have players reporting for preseason. We have trial activities. We're preparing for a game day. And, that doesn't even include the amazing news that our beloved Michael Azira is going to play with Uganda in the African Cup of Nations, and that we announced the first class of the Diversity Fellowship program today, which was just incredible. So I'm exhausted after a long weekend out on the pitch with the trialists, but I am incredibly happy, and I felt like today was sort of a culminating point. How are you feeling?
Dude, 6 days away from match day. After not having a match in New Mexico for a year and a half, we are 5 days away, from having a match in New Mexico. I could not be more excited, nervous. I'm kind of a jumbling of stringy and sparkly emotions. But I'm just so pumped to get towards match day finally. A lot has happened since the last time we played here. And again, a lot of cool stuff this week. I love that Michael Azira is on the national team. Going to cheer him on in the African Cup of Nations. The Diversity Fellowship. Yes, you're preaching to the choir. I'm pumped is really the short way to say what I just said in a long jumbled way.
So before we get to Chanel and let her introduce herself, you said a phrase in there, strings and sparkles, and I'm wondering if we've stumbled upon our first merchandise opportunity for United Sessions, because I think that really is what holds this podcast together, is metaphorical strings and metaphysical sparkles. Having said that, I feel like it's more appropriate for you to introduce our third host, even though she is a big-time homie for me. I think our relationships are probably on different levels.
I certainly hope so. Speaking of sparkles, Chanel Weesey joining us from the Somos Unidos Foundation, the executive director of the Somos Unidos Foundation. I think she loves sparkles more than pretty much anybody I know. So welcome in, Chanel.
Yeah, I'm feeling very sparkly as well. And I've got butterflies thinking about Saturday, especially since I started with New Mexico United in an official capacity in April of 2020. So my only home game experience was in Colorado Springs. So this is wild. Let's do it.
Yeah, your only home game experience is a quote unquote home game experience.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be very, very exciting for you to get your first hack on a game on native New Mexico soil. Dave.
Yeah, and I have like a little small leak. I heard a rumor today.
No leaks, no more leaks. Oh my god.
We have new lanyards that are like staff lanyards for our credentials. So I am over the moon.
Whoa. Chanel is breaking the big news here on the podcast. We have new staff lanyards.
Dave, while I take
Crazy.
over here, do you want to get a marquee going along the bottom for someone that may have missed that? Can we get that news documented? There will be new staff lanyards for the few of you that managed to get into what had to be the Logan's run of ticket buying, apparently. That's another positive thing that we haven't even talked about, which was we put preseason tickets on sale at Saturday at 10 a.m. and about 10:01, no more tickets. No more tickets, Dave.
If there was any concern, and there wasn't in my mind, but if there was any concern about maybe enthusiasm for this club starting to dwindle while we didn't have the opportunity to play home matches, I think that is thoroughly out the window at this point.
Absence truly did make the heart grow fonder during this period, and it's been amazing to see. Tom, you wait till you see these lanyards, man. I don't want to spill it too much, but they have been described by lanyard experts as mind-blowing. So just be very careful. You may want to avert your eyes until you're more comfortable with it. All joking aside about our lanyards, guys, we do have a legendary guest tonight joining us. Chanel, you are someone that was instrumental in securing this guest. And Dave, this seems to be kind of par for the course for us, that the really, really great guests are the product of the hard work of our third host.
Yeah, and this is really cool. Speaking of that, Lucas, we kind of accidentally discovered this weird format that we've been going with. It was, you and I obviously are the hosts here, But we started in week 1 with Troy joining us, talking to Kyle Martino. And then, we kind of moved forward where it was you, myself, some other United person, and then somebody else that we wanted to include. And I love that. That format's it's unexpectedly fun. I've really enjoyed it.
It's the family. It's the family aspect of it, and we love to get around the table as a family and share what it is we have in our own realms. So Chanel, this is your big moment. Okay, you're going to do our first tease, and then you're going to kick it to a break. You got this. Who do we have on the other side?
Am I teasing it or am I saying her name?
You can say her name. We've put it out on the social channels. Yeah,
that's true.
This is not your leak.
No, I'm incredibly excited to have this conversation with the one and only Madison Hammond. Just one of the most incredible, smart, bright young women. The first Indigenous woman to sign an NWSL contract, a homegrown native New Mexican. Just one of the many beautiful things that has come out of our relationship with the NB3 Foundation and our relationship with women in soccer. There's just all these amazing women in soccer that if we had more hours in a day, we'd have these conversations all day long.
All right. That's a great setup.
Oh, and now it's time for a break.
Here we go.
From day one, community has been at the heart of New Mexico United. This state, these people, this culture is in our DNA. United has always been more than a sports team, and victory has always been more than 3 points. With everything we do, we are dedicated to creating positive outcomes for every New Mexican. It's time for us to double down on that mission. Introducing the Somos Unidos Foundation, our commitment to the future in our state, to the future of our community, and to our belief that we are all united. Somos Unidos.
And we are back on United Sessions, episode 4, another wonderful Monday evening spent with the Black and Yellow family. And we welcome in 2 incredible guests. Dave, why don't you do the honors of introducing our 4th guest that's now joined the broadcast, Miss Madison Hammond.
Yeah, Madison is, a superstar in a lot of ways. First and foremost, she's New Mexican, which is pretty dang cool. She's also a star at OL Reign of the NWSL. She is making New Mexico proud. She is the first Indigenous person in the NWSL, which is also super exciting. And just somebody that we all look to as something that we're proud of here in the land of enchantment, someone that we're really proud of and look up to. So really excited to welcome in Madison Hammond. Thank you so much for joining us, Madison.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So first of all, Madison, where are you joining us from? What's the situation there like from like an actual fact perspective versus a mental health perspective? How are you holding up? What can you tell us?
I'm in Tacoma, Washington right now. This is where this OL Reign is based out of. And yeah, you've actually caught me on a great day. It's super sunny here today. And I think I saw like a tweet trending this past week that was like, I didn't believe in seasonal depression until the sun came out and I realized how much happier I was. And that's how I'm feeling today. But yeah, I mean, I just finished up a training session, grabbed a coffee and was like, man, I can't wait to walk on the water later. It'd be just great. So morale is great up here right now. Yeah, have 0 complaints today.
And because it's such a great day outside, we decided let's make sure that Madison has to spend a day inside hanging out with us. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
So let's just jump right in because there's a lot here. I feel like with all of our guests, we've had a really good problem, which is we have way more material than we have time to cover. Your story is harrowing. It's compelling. There's a lot of cool, interesting little nuance in it. But just give us the sort of background. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And what did sort of those early years look like for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was born actually in Phoenix area. But I spent all of my formative years in, or I guess my young days in Albuquerque, New Mexico. My entire extended family is from New Mexico, and all of them live there now. And my mom's actually in the military. So when I was in the 5th grade, we moved cross country and we moved out to the East Coast in Virginia. And, you know, that was kind of just a big culture change, life change. I mean, I was like just a lot of change. And so I am really close with my family. And so I, spent all of my time just being really close with them. We would do so many activities together growing up. And then all of a sudden it was just me and my mom and my sister out on the East Coast. And so that kind of informed a lot of just my life, but it also really opened up some doors for me and my career. And I started playing soccer in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I played for a team called the Young Lions. And from there, I started playing with boys, and we were on a 3v3 team. And I just remember loving to play with the boys because they were better than me, and it was super competitive, and it was really fun. And so that was one thing that didn't change when I moved out to the East Coast. And I knew I wanted to play on a boys team when I went to the East Coast. I wanted to keep that competitive fire rolling, but I was actually introduced to girls soccer out there, and there were a ton of really good clubs out there. And, travel soccer wasn't something that I was really considering, but I joined a club team. And from then on, it was kind of like story didn't stop. Next level came. But that's, I guess, just kind of where my story begins.
And when you were here in New Mexico, were girls teams available? You mentioned you were playing on boys teams the whole time. Was that by choice or just because of necessity?
I think part of it was choice. The boys that I played with, we played basketball in the winters together. We played soccer in the spring and summers. And so it was something that was really natural for me, and they were my really good friends. And I played for Rush, the club, but I hadn't even thought about girls soccer. I don't even remember really seeing girls teams. I'm sure that they were there, but that wasn't something that I was interested in doing. It just kind of made sense to continue playing with the boys because it was fun for me. And so moving out to the East Coast, and there were so many girls soccer teams, and they were all really, high quality, very professionally driven. All the clubs really had all of their ducks in a row in terms of, gear and tournaments that they went to and facilities and things like that. So it was just something that I hadn't really experienced before. And it really helped me in my soccer career and getting to where I am now.
Chanel Weesey, you're pretty much responsible for us getting such an amazing guest as Madison. Why don't you jump in on the interview for her? What questions do you have for her?
Yeah, actually, I love the way that we came connected to each other. It was really through the longstanding relationship that we've had with the NB3 Foundation and Patrick Quinn at New Mexico United, working with NB3 throughout the years when we could have game days and have runners on the field at home. And Madison's uncle actually works with the NB3 Foundation, and so we got connected through there. And that's just very exciting to see it all come together and to be able to showcase you and your story to our fans tonight, because I know that when that news broke last fall, there was a lot of people really inspired by the news and by seeing where you ended up with OL Reign. I love that we're talking about access to soccer, because that's a big focus of ours at the Somos Unidos Foundation. So can you kind of riff on what you've seen in terms of access to soccer for girls since your own time as an adolescent and maybe through now, and just what the differences are as you've been in lots of different pockets of the country?
Mm-hmm. I think that it's very interesting to see how much the youth game has changed even since I was playing as a youth soccer player. And, everything has changed. There are so many things that I have no idea. I have no information about. And when I was in the moment, things like the ODP program was still really prevalent. And now that's not even, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. But that was like the way you would get scouted for the national team. And my age group is when that started phasing out. And then all of a sudden you have ECNL, and then you have National League. And now I think there's like the DA or something. And then there's 4 other leagues. And so I think that it's a really motivating because it just proves how many young girls want to play soccer. But with that, I think all of those leagues and clubs and things like that, they're very expensive. Playing soccer is so expensive. That is one thing that has remained constant, and it's probably gotten worse. When I was playing, it was expensive, and it was something that, my family, we had to really consider, and we had to budget it out and things like that. And I am fortunate enough that my mom made those sacrifices to give me that access and opportunity. But there are families where that's not the case. And so I am a really big advocate and proponent for, clubs like mine, professional clubs in general, really focusing on the access for younger kids, because there are very talented kids who just might not have the resources or the opportunity. And if I wasn't given the opportunity, if my mom had decided, we can't afford it, then maybe I wouldn't have been recruited to play at a Division I school, because maybe I wouldn't have gone to that tournament. And so it's all a cyclical effect. And I think breaking the pay to play system is going to be the next task. And I don't know if it's going to be a simple fix, because youth soccer is very profitable, but I would hope that, it's something that we as organizations, teams, athletes, professional athletes, something that we consider, and trying to give back to, the kids that are coming behind us, because we want them to do what we're doing.
And I think you're speaking our language. First and foremost, Chanel is an example of just kind of the effort made to try and break that pay-to-play system. The Somos Unidos Foundation funds the New Mexico United Academy, and that academy is scholarship for every single athlete who wants to play in that academy. You touched on it a little bit there, but why is it so crucial to provide this access and to break down those barriers of financial requirements in order to play soccer in our country?
Mm-hmm. So I think, in my experiences, soccer is it's a heavily white dominant sport. And so as a woman of color in this space, it's just something that I don't think I was conscious of in the moment when I was growing up, but there are reasons why there are not as many people of color playing soccer. And that's because the way that the system is set up is, unfortunately, you do have to have the means to play soccer. And I don't think in other countries, if you're good at soccer, you're going to play, and you're going to find ways to play, whether it's street soccer, it's embedded into the culture. But I feel as though here, sometimes it's more of an elevated and exclusive sport. And I don't think that's what soccer is. I think the beauty of it is that anybody can play, and so many people do in the world. And so there's talent in so many other communities than just the ones that we're currently targeting. And so I think that one of the things that bothers me the most is, not bothers me, that's not the right way to say it, but it's more, sometimes I get asked, well, why aren't more Black girls playing soccer, or why aren't there more Native Americans playing soccer? And it's like, they might want to be playing soccer, and they are playing soccer, but because at some point you might have to tap out because you can't sustain what it takes to play at the highest level. And here in the United States, I feel like the system is very linear. You play at the best club, so you can get recruited to the best school, so you can go play professionally. And if you miss one of those steps, you might fall through the cracks. And it's not fair to the player if it's outside of their control. And so for me, that's something that bothers me. It's like, no, these people are playing soccer. We just have to be the ones that are going to look for them in those areas and recruit from different areas than just what we are currently looking in.
That's right. I mean, because let's say, if Black girls are playing soccer, but if we're not making the effort to go, find where that is happening, I mean, there's definitely a break in the chain there. Like we don't get from A to C without first going through B.
Well, and I would cut in there, Dave, and I would say this: it's not even that we're not going and finding him. What spaces are we giving them? We had Kyle Martino on, and we talked about, where are we giving them a habitat to develop, right? Where are we giving ourselves a spot to go and see them? And I think that's such a crucial part of all of this. And then the other point I would make, Madison, to really just kind of throw a guitar solo on top of this awesome beat you're laying down. It's still expensive when we take care of the soccer related fees. So we're looking at the Somos Unidos Foundation and what we're doing with the academy. And yes, their travel's taken care of and their gear's taken care of and all of these different things. But I watch as these parents of the younger kids pull up, right? And it's the middle of the day. I know what the work day is like. And so I know it's coming at some sort of cost to them to get their kid to practice and then stick around and have them there. There's always these residual costs. And so the more that we can do to take care of the big things and to take care of the systemic things, then we can open up those channels. Then we can start true path to discovery. I'm curious, you're very honest about how your mom made the sacrifices and budgeted around everything. What were some of the other things? What were some of those sort of writings in the stars that got you to the point that you're at right now? Whether that's an individual, whether that's a tournament that you mentioned, how did you become Madison Hammond?
Becoming Madison Hammond has been a long work in progress. I think that as a player, I just have always tried to remain as consistent as possible. And, for me, that always has just meant putting in the most work. And, since I was moved out to the East Coast and, I realized I was very serious about it. I was willing to do extra training sessions. I was willing to go before practice and do extra work, was willing to stay after. For a lot of my life, I've been always scheduling my life around soccer. And I haven't really had a problem with that. I mean, yeah, sure. There were days in high school where I was like, I want to go to this event or do this. But at the end of the day, in hindsight, I don't even remember those events because they didn't feel like sacrifices in the moment. Like it was a good means to an end. And so, I think for me, it's just always been day in and day out hard work. And, when I was in high school, I made a decision to change clubs and I joined an ECNL team. And that at the time was a league where there was a lot of exposure to high profile colleges, a lot of, just colleges that you really want to go to. And, I went to that tournament and I went to a specific tournament and the coach from Wake Forest, who ended up being my coach, Tony DeLuz, he saw me playing and I didn't even reach out to him for scouting purposes, but he saw me by chance at the tournament and he reached out to my coach. And from there it was, okay, like I don't really know anything about Wake Forest. And it was actually my mom that made me go on a visit there. I didn't even want to go because I had determined for myself as a 16-year-old who knows nothing that I only wanted to go to an urban school. I wanted to go to a big school, all of that. So then I ended up going to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and absolutely fell in love with the campus. And that was just like such a great experience for me. And committing there was amazing. And I went on to play 4 years of college soccer. I was a captain for 2 years, and Tony and I have maintained a really great relationship. But it was the decisions I made when I was 14 that got me there. If I hadn't changed teams, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe I would have gone somewhere else. So all of it is like a domino effect. And if I wasn't putting in the work if I hadn't put the work in at the time, there's no way that I would be where I am now. I mean, even just in the past year, I've told this story, I feel like a lot of times, but, after I graduated a semester early. I went abroad and tried to make a roster in Spain, and that didn't end up working out. And I didn't get drafted, and there was a lot of, doubt circling, but my rights ended up getting picked up by the Reign here. So I just had to come into preseason and work my butt off and make the roster. And then COVID hit. So that was a huge damper, and I can't believe it was a year ago. But, I went home and I had to work. Like if I didn't motivate myself to work in quarantine, nothing was open. I had to sneak onto fields. Like no one knew anything about the virus at this time. We were sneaking onto fields, getting kicked off by police, sneaking onto other fields. I was training in my garage, just kicking against the wall and stuff like that. And it's the job. Like that's you have to meet the demands. And so there is a part of it that is the opportunity and the resources and the access, but there's undoubtedly still the work that has to be put in.
Well, and I'll let someone else get in here. I feel like I've monopolized the time the last couple of minutes, but I think what you've unearthed there is another cost of playing soccer, right? Which is just the dedication on the part of the athlete. That whether that's a time cost, whether that's your physical body that you are dedicating to this, whether that's potentially getting jailed because you decided to go on fields during the beginning of the quarantine. Come on, Madison. Like we will bail you out, but we won't be happy about it. And it's harrowing. And so again, just kind of putting a bow on that whole thing, there's a lot of factors that have to come together for someone to get to where you're at, right? Unfortunately, at this point in time, it's a tremendous amount of material resources and money. There's the time, which we're never going to be able to take care of. And then there's the athlete's commitment. So for God's sake, let's just take care of that cost piece of it so that we can really make this a more manageable endeavor for our athletes. Dave or Chanel, it's up to you now.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, anybody who's willing to work that hard should be able to have the ability to continue working that hard. And we talk about pay to play, and I wish there was something as tight that made sense and that a lot of people play, like you said, but there's a piece of it that's like pay to have the elevated profile, pay to be seen, pay to be invited to continue working hard. So, I definitely hear that. And that's another piece of it too, is increasing the ability for people's profiles to be elevated as players, because there are positive outcomes associated with playing. Like you should be allowed to because you want to, but then, you have the opportunity to play professionally. You have the opportunity to see the world. You had an opportunity to go to college. I assume, you also got some education while you were there, and like now you have a degree, and that's very important for people who are on that path. So yeah, I appreciate you making that distinction as well. As you're talking about all this dedication, and we're talking about kids who have that or who don't, how do you feel like you're motivated in that space? Have you always been like just a super go-getter in everything that you've done, like in academics? Are you competitive? Are you anxious? Like, what is it? I perform best when I'm scared that like I'm gonna mess up. So that's what keeps me going. But what about you?
Yeah, I am 100% so competitive. I've wanted to be the best in everything, and I was a super nerd in school, and so that was another decision for me when I was like thinking about being recruited. The school aspect was just as important, and the best advice that I ever received was, when going through the recruiting process, was, if soccer was taken away from you tomorrow, would you have still made the same decision? And so it's something where, you're very competitive and want to put yourself in the best position to be the best soccer player you can. But at the end of the day, this game that we are all so passionate about as athletes, at the time, it was, you have to see the huge picture, and there is going to be a life for me after soccer, and it's in the way future. I'm just getting started, but it's something that when I was getting recruited, it was something that was really important to me, and getting a good education was very important to me. And I think that because I went to Wake Forest, I was given the tools to not only become a good soccer player and play at a very competitive level in the ACC and have, high profile exposure to all kinds of some of the best players in the country and also some of the best coaches in the country, but also being in an environment where I could study what I wanted to study. And, I changed my major at one point, and it was the best decision for me. And I'm super excited about the opportunities and the positions that I've put myself in for after my soccer playing career. But it is something, there are so many things that you have to be thinking about. But if you're not thinking about them proactively, and the only reason I was thinking about them proactively was because my mom was like, you are getting a good education. And then, you're only going to be set up for success in what you're doing in the moment. And I have always just been taught by my sister, by my mom, by just my family, just you have to think 2 steps ahead. And so I think that was probably some of the best advice I ever got. It might've been annoying to hear it at the time, but it's really worked out for me now.
But what a tough question to either have asked of you or to ask yourself. If soccer was taken away from you tomorrow, would you be happy with your decision? And like, I have to imagine, as somebody who I love soccer, but it's not nearly as much a part of my life as it is for you. Like it's everything you fought for. It's something you've dedicated your life, your time, your effort, potentially getting arrested on fields for. And to have that, I mean, how hard was that question to answer for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to answer the question now, it would be different than then. But to be asked that when you're 16 or 15 years old, you don't know anything. You think you know everything, but you don't know anything. And so I had to have a really realistic conversation with myself where, maybe there are some schools that are great soccer programs, but don't have as much of a high caliber education that I want, or maybe they don't have the major I want, or maybe they're not in the city or area of the country that I want to be. And those weren't sacrifices that I wasn't going to sacrifice myself for the college that I went to. But the experience that I ended up having at Wake was just very eye-opening in general for who I am and the spaces that I occupy. And that's a whole other part of when I talk to young players now. It's like, don't just go to a school because someone's telling you to. You have to research all parts of it because there is a life outside of soccer. And those parts make you a better soccer player. If you don't like your living situation, if you don't like if your mental clarity in space is off, it's just going to show itself on the field. So everything else has to be rocking in order for the field to be a good space for you.
All right, I'm going to ask a really selfish question. Oh, go ahead, Lucas.
No, I was just going to say Madison Hammond joining us on United Sessions, laying it down for us. Madison, you can't believe everything you read on the internet, so I'm going to verify this with you first and then ask a follow-up question. Did you, in fact, play violin in the Wake Forest Orchestra?
I did. I played all 4 years. I think I took one semester off for scheduling conflicts, but yes, I played the violin since I was in 4th grade. I've loved it. And I haven't actually brought my violin across country from home, but yeah. Yes.
So, okay. Now
she's a Renaissance woman.
Yeah, this is going to bloom out into a couple of different things here. So this may come as a shock to the United Sessions audience and the Black and Yellow family in general, but I too was faced with a decision whether or not I was going to be a high-level professional athlete or I was going to go into the music realm. I actually went the other route, Madison.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to think about that at all because that's just false. But go ahead.
False, embellished, you never know. But here's what I do know from my time in the heavy musical realm. It requires a sort of cult-like devotion, right? There are rituals and there are ways of doing things when you are a part of an orchestra or you're part of a band. And so my big question to you is, how on earth did you balance the two possibly competing cultures, but at least different cultures of being a professional athlete? And let's call you what you are, a band nerd.
100%. I'll take it. Actually, I wouldn't call myself a band nerd. Like, there was band and then there was orchestra. And
it's an important distinction. It is. It absolutely is different.
Way better than band. Band kids tried to act like they were cooler, but
whoa. This band kid takes offense to that.
I hope you do take offense to it.
She apologizes for nothing, David.
No, but it's, in high school, all of my friends, we all played together. And I think, we probably all were like nerds or whatever, but in college, it was a great way for me to have a space outside of soccer. And for me to, I'm also a very creative person and I just need that side of my brain to work sometimes. And so for me, it was a no-brainer to have that as an outlet for me. And the friends that I had in orchestra were great because I didn't have to talk about practice. I didn't have to talk about what made me mad about a game or if we, it was just a whole separate world. And that was super important to me, and to have as many different friends from different spaces and different backgrounds and who were into different things. There were some people in orchestra who didn't know a thing about the soccer team. And I was like, this is great. I don't have to say anything to you. And it was also cool to just show my teammates would come to my concerts or they would come to showcases and stuff like that. And so it was just it was a great time, and I loved it. And yeah, there were some times where I had to miss a concert or two, but it's fine.
That's so incredible. And here's my last violin related question. You said you did not bring it with you. You did not travel it, but like say I could magically put a violin right there right now. Can you pick up that bad boy and bang out something beautiful for everyone?
I don't know if it would be beautiful, but I could play something. My
Is it Turkey in the Straw?
No, it's not Turkey in the Straw. I could play hot cross buns. We could start there.
Okay.
But, my roommate actually just bought a ukulele, and it's different, but it's like a string instrument. And I was playing it the other day, and I was like, man, I kind of miss the violin. Maybe I should ship it out here.
You absolutely should, and then you should jam with Lucas because he's very musical. I guess David's repping the band kids over here. I'm so glad that I was just marginally part of like the things that they let people do. Like I never had to pay to do like a program where I was elevated because I just did like the day camp where it was just like babysitting. So like music, just bang on a bunch of different things, basketball, shoot a couple hoops and then you go home. That actually, what you were just saying, that led me into something I was curious about, just because I love the idea of like a sisterhood and like having a team, and especially with a coach. Like, what is that like? You've been on multiple different teams throughout your life, and I assume you make really great friends. But this is a special type of sisterhood. You have to rely on each other. You travel together. What is that like, and how has that kind of been significant in your life?
It's interesting because in college, I think how do I want to say this? So the difference between my college teams and a professional team, some of them are really in your face, and it's like, okay, well, this is definitely different. But, in college, it's very rah, like supporting each other. Everyone loves each other. We're all best friends. And it's a lot of it is about team chemistry. And I think the same is true in the professional space. And I think I'm very fortunate to be on a team where we have a ton of different personalities, but there's a ton of respect for each other. We all work for each other. But at the end of the day, in college, there are things that you have to deal with, and that you have to put a smile on for that you don't have to in a professional space, because every single person wants to be on the team here because it's the job. And the fact that it's our job is people come in and there's a certain level of professionalism that was not prominent in college, but here everyone's here to do a job. Everyone's going to show up every single day and play their best and work their tail off for you. And you have to be ready for it. We talk about it, and it's like, yeah, you're young, but you got to be ready or you are going to get walked all over. And that's so exciting to me, because if you can hold your own in this space, I think you can hold your own in literally any space. I'm on a team with people who are 10 to 12 years older than me and doing the same thing that they're doing and being asked, the demands are the same. And it's like, you're either going to meet them or you're not. And it's not as gray as sometimes college soccer is.
All right. So you're talking about kind of your NWSL club. I'm going to ask you a selfish question. Ultimately, I'm just a big soccer fan that happens to work for a club. I got really lucky in that way. NWSL in Albuquerque. What do you think about it?
I mean, I think Albuquerque would have great fans. And I think that that's a big part of why NWSL clubs are successful, is because the fan base, generates a lot of, hype and knowing the players and stuff like that. I think Albuquerque would be a great place. I think of just like the Isotopes, like we pack out stadiums there. So it's just, I think it would work. It's just more from a player experience side. Here living in Tacoma, there's people on my team that live in Seattle. So like the only thing I could think of is would people love Albuquerque, the city, like I do? I would hope so, but that would be the only other question.
Very, very excellent answer there. Like I thought maybe you were just going to go full homer for us, Madison, and be like, yeah, absolutely, rah, rah, rah. But yeah, there's other considerations in all of it.
Honest
but
answers. I love it.
I think you're right though, that the fan base, I mean, we've seen that with United on our side. We've seen that with really any endeavor we've had, and then we've seen it support a couple other things that if you have the fans on your side, if you have a genuine connection with the community, that's about all you'll really need in the long run. Before we get to this ridiculous game that Chanel came up with, so I'm just going to say when we get there, this is all her fault. But before we do that, I think it's really important when we have guests like you on, Madison, that we give you sort of this open space and this open forum. And I'll just give the slightest prompt, so it's not just the vaguest question of say whatever it is you want to say. So here's what I'll say for the prompt. You know, we've got a 7-8-year-old person who stumbles across this video and they're looking to hear just a message of inspiration. And maybe this individual's a female, maybe there's a male, maybe they're indigenous, you know, maybe they're black, maybe who knows what those circumstances are, but they're just like thinking to themselves, how do I chart a course of success for myself? Right? What advice do you have to them? What words of encouragement do you have to them? Because I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing we can do with this platform.
Yeah, I think that for me, it's whatever you want to do in your life, you have to put in as much work as possible. And I think I've kind of been echoing that sentiment throughout this conversation. But if you're passionate about something, it's not going to feel like work at the end of the day. And it might not be soccer. It might be something in the sciences. It might be something in art. It might be something in music or acting. But if you're going to do something, you have to be looking the furthest target. So if you want to act, look for the best acting schools and how do I put myself in the best position? And it's not you have to have the courage to fail. And I think that's the biggest lesson I've ever been taught by my mom in my life is she's always been so admirable of me because she's like, you're not afraid to fail. And, you know, you might fall flat on your face, but if you don't put yourself in uncomfortable positions, you're never going to move forward. And so I think I would just tell them, look as far as you possibly can. And if you have to go a little bit shorter, that's fine. But if you've at least attempted to reach as far as you possibly can go.
I love that. That's brilliant. That's a message that any person, regardless of their age, can take.
That's right.
Yeah, Madison, I hope that you, when you're talking about life after soccer, I really hope that in some way is related to being a coach or to working with young people. You already have so much wisdom to share and like you really get it and you have a lot of empathy, I think, for the types of kids that we want to see up and coming in the game. And so that would be my vote, that you consider some type of youth soccer development or being, you know, on the technical team or even like the front office side of something in the community space. Like I have the privilege of doing, like, definitely you got to keep passing it on.
I'm keeping ideas. So I'll let you know in about 10 years.
Excellent. Well, even though Madison Chanel came up with the game that we are going to play with you tonight, I will do the honors of explaining the game just because I live to serve. So if you've heard any of this, we love to bring on really, really important guests, whether that's Peter Wilt or Kyle Martino, or, you know, last week it was me and David's mothers. We love to bring them on and have these great conversations, and then make them do something ridiculous at the tail end of it. So what we're going to do is, and again, this is just me being, well, on one hand, you could call it a great producer, and on the other hand, just being like kind of a weirdo looking at people's social media profiles.
You're just a weirdo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll go with that. But I noticed on your Instagram profile, Madison, that you had the phrase amateur tea enthusiast. So before I explain the game, can you explain to me what an amateur tea enthusiast is?
I love to drink tea. I know but if you asked me a ton of questions about it, which I'm scared you might do, I probably will get most of them wrong.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, these are heavy tea-related questions, but they have nothing to do with the beverage tea. We are going to play a little game with you called Who Said It, Mr. T or Iced Tea. So I don't know how familiar you are with these two Hollywood actors who far precede you. Mr. T, from acclaim as Clubber Lang on the Rocky movies, and he was also in the A-Team. And then, of course, Ice-T, who is a rapper in his own right. But for me, his entire career begins and ends with his time on Law and Order SVU.
Law and Order SVU. Yes.
So that's what we have for you here is a series of quotes. We'll just rotate around reading to you. Here's the thing. It's a ridiculous game, but I think no, last week it could have been 50-50 as well. So this is the second game where, as ridiculous as it is, you still have a 50-50 shot of getting it right, just randomly throwing out there. All you have to answer.
And she's so competitive. She's so competitive.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Wait, how many questions? How many do we got?
We have 7. So we're going by majority rules.
I can lose this game.
All right, here's the thing, Madison. If you get 4 of these 7 right, we're going to send you a piece of New Mexico United merchandise headed your way.
All right, I need to turn my brain on. All right, let's go.
All right, Dave, shall I kick us off?
Yeah, that's you go first. Chanel, you want to take the second? I'll take the third.
All right. That means I get to read 3 times, Madison. You see how I set that up for myself?
Oh, beautiful.
All right, here we go. I tell people who I am because they don't know me. You might have read something, this or that. Like all the interview people I've been talking to since this morning. They say, wow, he plays tough roles and whatnot, but he's a really nice guy.
I'll go Ice-T.
Oh, no, that's incorrect. I'm sorry. That's Mr. T.
Oh, gosh.
0 for 1.
Shake it off. Mr. T would have been your second guess, right?
Yes, Mr. T was coming next.
Okay, I got you for number 2 here. So if you can't read, the only thing you can do is enjoy the pictures, not the whole story. Reading is the key to knowledge. Knowledge is the key to understanding.
Sounds like Edgar Allan Poe said that. What? Can I have the definition, please?
The language of origin. Yeah.
Can I have the language of origin, please? Can I have a repeat of the quote, please?
Absolutely, you may. If you can't read, the only thing you can do is enjoy the pictures and not the whole story. Reading is the key to knowledge. Knowledge is the key to understanding.
All right, I'll go Ice-T again. Oh, gosh.
Oh, no. Now we're in a bad position because you're really second guessing yourself. And with 2
I was going to say Mr. T, and I was like, oh, there's no way they would put 2 in a row.
This is the danger of the true or false test. It's the only test.
Picking 2 people that what?
That you have probably no prior experience to.
They're probably 3 times as old as you are as well.
Well, if I go 0 for 3, I'm just going to say Ice-T is my guess for number 3. And if I'm wrong about that, then I feel like the odds you guys just made them all Mr. T.
Now that would be hilarious.
She's very cunning and strategic here.
I like this. Love it. All right, here we go. Number 3, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Also a topic of education. Here we go. It's just one of those things that I was caught up in with books because when I was in high school, the cool kids were reading them. I started reading the books, and the next thing you know, you got a 15-year-old kid talking like a 50-year-old man. And it just made me popular.
I'll just go Ice-T.
Hey! All right,
for 3.
That one made more sense just in context. So, all right, all right, let's keep going.
That's that Wake Forest education.
Now, for those of you that may be tuning in right now, I am reading a quote. I am not saying this next quote as Lucas Cash. I am reading this as a quote, and I need to make that painfully clear because I do not want to be accused of anything or stepping out of bounds here. The quote, Madison,
I told you this is the episode we were going to get canceled.
Yeah. The quote, Madison, is, I'm a product of the ghetto. I was born and raised in the ghetto, but the ghetto wasn't born and raised in me. Which T is that?
You're muted.
You've muted yourself then.
I think I'm going to go with Ice-T.
4 guesses Ice-T. Only one of them has actually been Ice-T. And that is Mr. T again. Madison, you are not out of this yet, but you need
I'm one away, am I not?
You need to run the table. You have 3 questions left. You can get 4.
See, now I'm going to be second guessing myself because I don't think none of these are Ice-T.
Hey, I can't tell you how to live your life.
Oh my God, this is terrible.
All right, you got 3 more. Chanel, you're up next.
I think that if I don't get these right, you are not allowed to put this on the podcast. Decided. No. I also would like a rematch of this trivia. I want better trivia.
All right.
Hey, next time, don't put amateur tea enthusiast on your Instagram and leave the door open for me to be ridiculous.
Yeah, because when she put up amateur tea enthusiast, she definitely thought she'd have to deal with Mr. T trivia.
I feel like I would have had a better shot with is it green? Is it black? Is it chai?
See, I love tea too. I don't drink coffee at all. I'm a tea person, so I was very excited when I read that, and it's kind of backfired a bit here.
How would you have fared if it was like tea time and it was golf questions? Because like the whole MB3 tie that maybe you would have done.
I probably still would have done terribly. I'm terrible at golf as well. The handbag position didn't get that gene, so I'll stick to the feet.
Yeah, that's another thing I spent one day doing with my parents. Paid like $50 for me to just be somewhere outside for 3 hours. So okay. Sorry.
Dog squeaky toy.
Yeah. Okay. So what number are we on? 5?
Number 5.
Oh.
I'm tough enough to fight them, and I'm not afraid of nothing. I'm not even afraid of death.
Okay. There's context here. Yeah, think about that.
Oh, their context. Repeat, please.
I always need to repeat mine. I'm tough enough to fight them, and I'm not afraid of nothing. I'm not even afraid of death.
You got this, Madison. Come on.
Come on, Madison.
I'm scared. This is a terrible game.
There's context with this one, though. There's context. She's
never going to answer our call.
There's not context, David, because the context was in the late 1980s.
That's fair. Okay. Never mind. There's no context.
I'll just guess iced tea. No!
Hey, remember when your mom gave you that great advice to just go into everything without a fear of failing, even if you fall flat on your face? Madison, you're a G, and so I hate to say this, but boy, did you fall flat on your face on that one. You went pure iced tea.
I'm just going because how you guys pretty much did all of these Mr. T.
So just so you know, the split was actually 3 iced teas and 4 Mr. T's.
Well, we weren't done. I was going to ask more questions.
No, I'm done. I can't even.
If she can't win, Madison doesn't want to play. Like that's just
I don't want to play anymore.
Why would I do that
for you?
It's also me being a sore loser and just tapping out now, so I don't have to be announced as a loser.
Well, if it makes you feel better, the next one was going to be Mr. T. No, it's going to be iced tea. Next one's going to be iced tea.
I still wouldn't have done that because I was going to just guess iced tea.
Yeah,
next one was going to be
you stuck with your strategy. It was well done. Okay, and I'm sure we can still dig up something around the New Mexico United office because
we're going to send you something.
You're a hero of this state. We would be honored to have you representing us, and so don't feel bad. Again, that is a ludicrous game. They are designed for my amusement and mine alone, not to be won or to even be especially amusing to the audience. I'm sure most of them are listening, and once again, just being like, okay, another one that has actually no practical value whatsoever.
I want to ask one other question before we let you go there. When you signed with OL Reign, you kind of got a bit of notoriety, a bit of fame. Two of the cool things that happened, Billie Jean King tweeted about you. That's so cool. I mean, she's one of the greatest tennis players of all time. To talk about like a pioneer for women in sports. First of all, what was that like? And then second of all, you went on Men in Blazers. So can you hook us up with that? But let's go with Billie Jean King first.
I would say the Billie Jean King tweet totally caught me off guard. Making my debut was something that I've always been looking forward to, but just purely as an athlete. And so to then realize that I was the first Native American to play in the NWSL, to be in the NWSL, was something that wasn't even top of mind. So for that to being brought to the forefront of the conversation was something that made me so excited and grateful and just really, inspired by the people who it impacted. Just getting shouted out by Billie Jean King, who you said, is a pioneer for women in sports. It was just unreal. And, to be actually so young and still a rookie and, going into my second year, I can say unabashedly that I was just fangirling totally 100%. And so it was a really, really special and cool moment for me. And it really validated all the work that I've done to get to where I am.
I want to meet the person who says they wouldn't fangirl over Billie Jean King and call them a liar.
Yeah, probably.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us, Madison. It's been so much fun to talk to you, enlightening. It's been just interesting from start to finish. Sorry about the game.
The game was really, really a big downer. I promise that I'm a little bit smarter than that, but
it was a ridiculous.
There were no smarts to be proven in that. In fact, if I can wrap it up with this, Madison, I would say I would be more terrified if you did good at that game than if you did bad at it. I would have been like, what is going on in this young lady's life that she
why do you
so
know
much
Clubber Lang so well?
Yeah, why does she know these two individuals so well? Thank you again for taking time with us. I know that you got to run, so you won't be joining us for the third segment, but just a million best wishes from the land of enchantment. We want to see nothing but unbridled success for you and eventually see you possibly playing in WSL in your home city. Madison Hammond, thank you again for joining us.
And come out to a game soon.
Yes. Thank you so much, you guys.
For her. Para ellos. For them. For all of us.
For our families, we stay home. For our communities, we keep our distance. For our state and our fellow New Mexicans, we wear our masks. As New Mexicans, we're no strangers to hardship. Anytime something is put in our way, we prove that we can overcome it. The sacrifices that we make today will create a better tomorrow for all of New Mexico. Somos Unidos.
We're back. Final segment, United Sessions. Whiskey, Weesey, making an appearance. Welcome to the show, big man. Part of me wants to talk about how amazing Madison is. I mean, I think that's obviously the takeaway from that. But just watching the commercial, Dave, like we may need to phase that out because just seeing Cody Mizell is just a heart punch after a heart punch. Chanel, I know you have a special place in your heart for Mr. Mizell. Are you feeling the same pain that I am?
Yeah, is that why I feel like I'm about to cry? It was just like the whole thing. I think ending with Madison, hearing that music, seeing Cody, Sparkles went emotional pretty quickly.
There's a lot of feels to be associated with this family. There's a lot of pride to be associated with this family. And I think that's a big takeaway from tonight is that this is a state that, as Josh Suggs said one time in a Jersey announcement video, this is a state that's been up against it for a long time. And we've heard all of the different cliches. And I think that's why we celebrate our champions in such a real and meaningful way, because they just mean so much more to us. Madison is definitely one of those individuals. I cannot wait to see her continued meteoric rise. Hopefully she's putting on the stars and bars one day, and we're rooting for her in that crazy context. We ran pretty long on that interview, and rightfully so. We had the very important Ice-T or Mr. T game. And you've got to give that as much space as it needs. Okay, that's the quality content that people are tuning in for. But it has maybe limited a little bit of our session here at the end. But Chanel, there was something of interest, was there not?
Yeah. I started poking around here on the break, and I kind of want to throw this back out to you guys because it's very interesting, like the economic modeling between Ice-T and Ice Cube here. So I want to throw a question out to you all, since you guys are always throwing questions at everyone else. On Cameo, the website where you can get custom messages from celebrities and the like. Both Ice-T and Ice Cube are on Cameo, so you can get a request for a birthday message or whatever. And I want you to take your guesses of who has a higher rating out of like a couple hundred reviews and who is worth more money.
Ooh, price point versus quality.
So this is Ice-T and Ice Cube, not Mr. T?
Oh, no, I did not just do that.
It's all right.
This is still good. This is still good.
It's good. This is how we bring together the triangle
Strands.
that we were trying to create. No,
Wow.
Ice Cube. Ice Cube is another one. And again, when we mess with Madison again for the second interview, maybe we were like, okay, we know that the Ice-T, Mr. T conversation was ridiculous. So we made it more reasonable, and now it's Ice-T and Ice Cube. Personally, if I'm going first, because I'm the one talking right now, and yes, absolutely great shout from the curse right now. Vanilla Ice does need to be a part of that calculus. But for the two that we have presented before us right now, I have to think that Ice Cube has a higher value. Rating could be great down the road for Ice-T. I mean, he gets on there and he pops an SVU-ism. We're in the money, right? I've now gotten my wife the best birthday present ever. So I'm sure there's some high ratings there. But I want to say just pure monetary value based off of what he's done in the movies and remaining relevant. I got to go with Ice Cube is the pricier cameo.
David?
I always want to disagree with Lucas whenever possible. But you can't record something like Today Was a Good Day and not be the better option out of those two. So Ice Cube for me as well.
Yeah, and I will say, just for the record, there are only Mr. T. There are two Mr. T lookalikes, so we're not including them in this game.
We
but
can't
there's
even
not a
get
real
the genuine Mr. T.
Yeah.
All right, so now
So
reveal the payoff.
yeah, Ice-T is a $450 buy, but a 5.0 rating with 544 reviews. So
Wow.
that's Ice-T. Then we have Ice Cube, who is a $500 request. So just $50 more there, but only 4.9 stars and only
Only
119
4.9,
reviews.
nearly perfect, but only
The cameo jungle is fierce, and
Yeah.
only the most elite can rise to the top. Your business segue, Chanel, actually provides us a very great business segue, and that is this. Thank you so much for listening, audience. As ridiculous as it seems to devote an hour and some change to hanging out with me and Dave, and in this case, Chanel, it has real ramifications for us as a club. And as silly as this sounds, we actually have businesses, corporate partners that are interested in getting in on this game. So please keep listening. Please keep supporting. Please keep rating, subscribing, sharing. Everything that you do is so much more important than anything that Dave and I could do or the club could do. Because if you give us a recommendation, it really means something, right? To your friends, to your family. If you're like, I believe in this project, it means so much more than anything we could do as people they don't know. So thank you for everyone who shared tonight's episode. We know it was super important with Madison. Thank you to everyone who has continued to help us steadily climb that mountain of downloads. It's a new project, and those are always super duper scary, but it's been tremendously less scary because we have such amazing people who have our backs. And so thank you so much on that front. I want to kick it over to you, Chanel, our wonderful third host for tonight. What was your favorite part of the show tonight?
I mean, I have to say it's predictable, but all the talk about access to soccer, like I can't get enough of that conversation. And the more that I get to hear from it firsthand, I mean, that's just gas in the tank to keep trying to do what we do. Keep working on getting those academy sponsorships. You know, we've been on the phone with businesses and somos unidos familia who are interested in helping us keep that free, not just for this year, but the years to come. And so it definitely is motivating. And I think to your point about getting the ratings and the shares and everything, I think if we get enough shares and ratings, maybe we could convince Madison and her mom to come back in, because I feel like there's antics there that need to be explored. And then we could do the Ice Cube, Vanilla Ice. I can't even, yeah.
Yeah, the worst thing Madison did for herself was react in such a visceral way to the terrible nature of that game, because all that did for me is like the next one's going to be even worse. So that's where that came into that. Mi amigo David, what was your favorite part of the show tonight?
Well, I think Chanel led into it perfectly for me. It was advice that Madison's mom gave her, which is don't be afraid to fail, or at least have the courage to fail. it's okay to fall flat on your face, but it's not okay to not try. I love that. I'll take that with me.
Sorry, you caught me mid-drink there, but I agree with that 100%. I think this production we're putting on right now is a good example of that, right? We don't know how it's going to turn out. Like we like to think that we have a pretty good thumb on the pulse of our fan base. But at the end of the day, you just got to get out there and do it. You just got to say, hey, Cash family, get yourselves to the back of this house so that I can get on this ridiculous podcast with my friends and talk about the stuff that really gets my blood pumping fast. And I guess that's what I would segue into my favorite part of it. I tweeted out today just this meme, this cliche that we all see, but I believe it said something to the effect of anything that gets your blood pumping is probably something worth doing. And I think she's such a great example of whether it be orchestra, whether it be an academic superstar, whether that be a professional soccer player, and again, to your point, Chanel, this is a testament to her mom and how she was raised, that she was raised with a warrior spirit and no fear of failure. Definitely go out there and take everything that's presented to you, and do something meaningful with it. That's another thing as well. I'm just so impressed by Madison, and I don't want it to come off as like microaggression-y, like, oh, Madison is so young and so brilliant. Like, she's just brilliant. It doesn't need any qualifier to begin with. And so to be able to spend a little bit of time with her for the potential of someone else hearing her story, again, that's why we get together. That's why we hang out. I know we need to wrap this up. We've gone a little bit longer than we typically would, but I do want to point out what an exciting weekend we have ahead of us. Just do a little bit of house cleaning. Black and Yellow family, we are getting back together. We wish it could be all of you, right? We saw what those attendance numbers are. We know what the ceiling of a New Mexico United fan base is, but there's some sort of mitigating factors in there that don't allow us to do that. And so just know that we take no joy in saying no to individuals being out on the field with us. Having said that, for the individuals that are going to be out there with us, get ready for a party. We are going to bring it. It's a family reunion, long overdue. Obviously, we want to be as safe as possible. Obviously, we want to continue to take care of each other, but we're going to have some fun. You're going to get to see some new guys. You're going to get to see the wretched team that, probably cemented their place as our rivals with that nonsense last year. But it's just going to be a great day. Dave, I want to give you a little bit of space, Chanel, a little bit of space to just talk about your excitement going into this weekend, and then we'll put a bow on everything.
Yeah, for me, I mean, that's what we let off with, right? It's been a year and a half since we were able to do this at home in our state on our soil, and it's just so beyond exciting, and again, a little nerve-wracking to do it for the first time in so long. But I think the best part of it for me, in addition to just seeing the soccer at home again, is seeing your friends. We've missed them so much, and I can't wait. I can't wait to get out there and have that fun, and to when that first ball is kicked, it's gonna be something special. I can't wait.
It's gonna be electric top to bottom. Chanel?
I can't wait to see the family, and just, even if it's air hugs, just to be able to do that and see the smiling eyes under the mask. And then I just can't wait to win and beat El Paso and just kick off everything really powerfully and exciting.
Yeah, they've been hanging that over us for far too long, so it's gonna be good to cleanse that one. Dave, great job as always, my man. You are the bomb when it comes to producing. Chanel, what a wonderful co-host you are. Thank you for helping us with our guests. No,
yeah,
you're the best, and you'll be back. And this is a good time to reveal, like, if you've seen these third hosts and you're like, oh boy, I missed the Troy episode or the Peter episode or the Chanel episode. There's going to be multiple iterations of that. I'm feeling a little bit sentimental. It's the 4th episode, right? That's a calendar month, and you guys have been with us since we kind of, I don't know that we launched the ship into the water, but we definitely kind of just like kicked it in there, and now we're floating around and just having a tremendous night. So, Dave, unless you have any final words, I think that's probably good for tonight.
All right, until next week, somos unidos.
We are united.